How do I understand graphs in AP Macroeconomics? If you are preparing for the Advanced Placement Macroeconomics exam and feeling overwhelmed by graphs, you are not alone. Understanding these visuals is essential for success. Let's break it down step by step. First, familiarize yourself with the axes of the graphs. The vertical axis usually represents the price level, which indicates the average prices for goods and services. The horizontal axis typically shows real gross domestic product, which reflects the total output of the economy adjusted for inflation. Next, you will encounter several key graphs in your studies. One of the most important is the Aggregate Demand-Aggregate Supply model. This graph illustrates the overall demand for goods and services and the total supply in the economy. The aggregate demand curve slopes downward, meaning that as prices decrease, people tend to buy more. Conversely, the short-run aggregate supply curve slopes upward, indicating that higher prices encourage producers to supply more goods. The long-run aggregate supply curve is vertical, representing the economy's full employment output level. Another important graph is the production possibilities curve. This graph shows the maximum output combinations of goods that an economy can produce with its available resources. Points inside the curve indicate inefficiency, while points on the curve show efficiency. Points outside the curve are unattainable with current resources. The money market model is also crucial. It illustrates the supply and demand for money, helping you understand how interest rates are determined. Additionally, the market for loanable funds graph shows how savings and investment interact to set the real interest rate. The Phillips curve depicts the inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment in the short run, while the foreign exchange market model shows how exchange rates are determined by the supply and demand for currencies. Understanding the key concepts behind these curves is vital. For example, the wealth effect explains how lower price levels can make people feel wealthier, leading to increased spending. The interest rate effect shows that lower price levels can lead to lower interest rates, encouraging investment. The net export effect illustrates how domestic price changes can affect exports. It is also essential to differentiate between shifts and movements. A movement along a curve occurs when the price level changes, affecting the quantity demanded or supplied. A shift of a curve happens when factors other than price change, such as consumer confidence or government spending. Use these graphs to analyze economic events. For instance, if government spending increases, the aggregate demand curve shifts to the right, resulting in higher output and price levels. Conversely, if a natural disaster impacts production capacity, the aggregate supply curve shifts to the left, leading to higher prices and lower output. Practice labeling and interpreting the graphs. Always label the axes and curves clearly, and mark equilibrium points where the curves intersect. This will help you understand what changes in the graph mean for unemployment, inflation, and economic growth. Finally, apply your knowledge to exam questions. Use graphs to explain various economic scenarios, such as recessions or the effects of fiscal or monetary policy. By mastering these graphs and their meanings, you will be well prepared for your Advanced Placement Macroeconomics exam.